weekend, another crazy 2 days of results and drama for the boys in the red, white, and blue. So hit like and subscribe, all of you beautiful people in the In Soccer We Trust YouTube family, and let's get after it. Oh, I forgot to turn this on. Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Julian Green Dad, favorite podcast in Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Trash Can, Cream Cheese, Conrad, alongside Charlie Chuck Wagon Davies and Hollywood Heath Pearce. And yes, we're recapping all the good and not so good performances for all the eligible and most likely participants for the U.S. men's national team in the upcoming World Cup, which, if you can believe it, is starting in less than a month. It doesn't seem real in some ways. But first, it's time to put Chuck on the hot seat. Where were you last show, Mr. Wagon? Where were you?
Yeah, tell us where you were at that time.
Well, we want to know where you were.
Where were you?
What were you doing? For people that can't see, you have a nice fade, so maybe you went and got your hair done. I don't know.
Full transparency, I was with Major League Soccer's Extra Time.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Okay, so
Great.
the other one, you know.
Yeah.
I just realized we're the side piece, you know.
Yeah. Wait. Are we? Who's the mistress here? Is it them? Is it
No,
us?
I have no side pieces here. I have no side pieces.
Yeah.
He's into polygamy. That's cool, man. That you have multiple wives. That's very
true.
nice.
That's true. Love is love.
Cool.
Love
is love. Love is love.
Yikes!
All right, so our title of the show is Jesse Marsch Under Fire because Leeds, out of the last 8 games, have only gotten 2 points. That's 2 out of a possible 24. And it looks like Jesse could be in trouble. He got hired last February. He might not even last a year, which is better than Bob Bradley, but still not great. You want him to be in there for a while. And I want to talk about this a little bit, but I want to use it through the lens of Greg Berhalter and how he approaches the U.S. men's national team, because this feels like a little bit of a potential system issue. Now, I know at the club level, you can make changes a little bit more quickly, and you have transfer windows to solve some of the problems. Now, Leeds sold one of their top players, Rafinha, Calvin Phillips, I guess 2 of their top players. And even though Tyler Adams and Brenden Aaronson have been good, I don't think any of the Leeds fans have problems with that. They have a problem with what Jesse is implementing. Now, what I wanted to ask both of you, and Heath, I'll come to you first on this. You have a system, right? If you're a coach and your team is creating opportunities and they're just not scoring, how much of that responsibility should a coach take? Because you are putting your players in a position to succeed. So that's happening. They're just not taking their chances. Now, defensively, though, they've been very lax. They gave up 2 goals this past weekend to Fulham on corner kicks and another one off a throw-in, which is really unacceptable because, as we all know, it's not about talent and set-piece situations. It's about desire and focus. And I feel like there might be some stubbornness here from Jesse. Like, this is my system. This is how I play. And I'm because they play very narrow leads. And that's where the Greg Berhalter piece comes in, where you're trying to usher this system in without necessarily adapting to the players that you have at your disposal.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that you said in there that are super valid, right? One is, you and I know, especially as defenders, when you defend for long periods of time and keep your teams in games, and the team gets clear chances and they don't finish, you can get frustrated over time of saying, hey, give us a break once in a while, right? Give us a little bit of relief, as opposed to missing chances, and now you keep another team in the game, and now you face wave after wave of attack. That's one small part of it. The other part is about finishing those chances in the offense. But this all comes down to, for me, Leeds, just as a system, they get to a certain point in a game, and they start to fall apart. Organizationally, they play a high-energy system, and it seems like as somebody starts to punch back on them later and later in matches, individual errors, organization. We've been in games. I go to Charlie uses this game a lot as his biggest memory was against Spain, right?
I thought you meant the one in Mexico where he scored, but okay.
Oh yeah, that one as well. That's a perfect example of where you score and then you're facing this wave of attacks. And there is a time when you look into each other's eyes that your highest player up the pitch to your goalkeeper are looking at each other saying, we are not going to be the ones that let that down. It doesn't seem like they have this. I don't want to say that's the mentality, but the leadership of being able to grab a game by the scruff of the neck. Is that what the saying is?
Scruff of the neck.
Yeah. And see it out, whether you're going to win or get a point. It doesn't seem like there's like that. It seems like they become smaller. The players in the defensive line, the back 6, become smaller and smaller instead of becoming bigger and bigger, where you see the presence of your center backs get bigger. You see your fullbacks get bigger in challenges. You see that energy come to life. We see that energy in their fight early on, higher up the field in places like that. But defensively is where I'm like, man, they sort of are very, very fragile right now, and it's leading to individual errors. It's leading to these moments that, by and large, they look like Norwich looked like throughout the games last year in the Premier League, but in the final 15 minutes where they look a step late, not confident in the challenge, not confident in the attacking, not confident in organizationally to make plays collectively. And that is not a great recipe for success unless your team is getting you a couple goal cushion.
So Charlie, I got questions here because we're familiar with Jesse enough to know that it's 100 miles an hour. Let's go put pressure on the ball as soon as we possibly can. Let's try to win it back as high as possible. But it seems like that's making the defense a little bit more vulnerable in this particular situation. So do you think Jesse has it within him to adapt to the situation and maybe be a little bit more conservative in their approach? I don't think he does. And I think he's just going to listen, this is my style. This is my system. And whatever happens, happens. But maybe to be more pragmatic could be better for the long-term future of his job at Leeds and maybe any other place that he manages.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult situation.
Right?
It's a difficult situation, but you signed up for it. You know exactly the players that you have, the plan to sell Rafinha to Barcelona. You knew that you're bringing Brenden Aaronson in. You were going to get Tyler Adams. You knew what the players that you had at your disposal. Now, I know the general consensus around his philosophy is like Red Bull, we're going to be ultra aggressive, high press, condense the field. There were times where it looked great. The Arsenal game, second half, they took it to Arsenal, top of the table, Arsenal. It did not matter. Leeds showed that they have something, but in the attacking third, they could not finish. Just lacked the finishing touch. So they took it to
times, Chelsea. They battered Chelsea earlier.
Times you say unlucky. We salute, but it's results driven, because you can't look at the table and say, man, he doesn't have enough quality. Yet Bournemouth, Brentford, Everton, who I think is not great at all. I mean, it's crazy that they're at 11th place in the table right now, missing a striker, really. But Brentford, Everton, Crystal Palace, you could argue Crystal Palace, but Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Southampton, and Leicester City, those aren't teams that are better than Leeds United. They don't have players that are, so much more talented than what Leeds currently has. So the excuse of, he doesn't have the right talent or enough talent, that I'm not buying that. That's throw that out the window. But this team should be doing better than they are. And I'm with you, Heath. You just have to be able to adjust. You have the grand scheme. This is how we're going to play. But if it's not going according to plan, then you have to adjust. Maybe it's okay, we need a result. So we're gonna put people behind the ball and just defend. We're gonna grind this out.
Yeah. What's interesting is I wonder if,
by the way, Fulham looked like a team in that match. Like they looked like they had a game plan that when they got their moments or their goals and they capitalized on those, you then saw them lock it down in a different way. They made that adjustment, right? And it's easier when you're up when you're winning. But Fulham looked much more complete of a squad.
Do you feel, though, and we can use Norwich as an example. Norwich was in the Premier League last year and just trying to survive. And your tactics and your identity is matched with that survival. You're just scraping, you're doing everything you can and hoping for the best. It didn't work out. Norwich now drops down to the Championship, and they can play a little bit, baby. They can breathe. Josh Sargent's a good example of that. And he's having a lot of success because there's just more opportunities for them to actually play. Fulham got to stamp their identity in the Championship last season under Marcus Silva, the manager, and now can bring that up to the Premier League with players that are capable and have had Premier League experience before. And obviously you add a couple pieces. Jesse came into a situation where it was a hot mess, a dumpster fire, and he really has never had a chance to maybe play under pressure. Again, to your point, he knew what he was getting himself into. So that's what he inherited, and that's what he has to live through. But I don't feel like he's ever had a chance to sit down and get or not be under pressure every single game and allow.
You're always.
I guess even in the Championship, you're under pressure. I get that,
Yeah.
but at the Championship level, I think there's room to actually to play and implement a style, and he hasn't actually had that chance. And I think he's trying to do it on a full sprint and trying to. I think when he came in too, trying to implement or keep some of the things that Marcelo Bielsa was doing. I don't know. It's difficult. Should he be held accountable? I'm not trying to say that I don't want to make excuses for him, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I just think it's interesting.
It sounds like I appreciate you saying these things, Jimmy, so we could still get Jesse on the show. You know, I do appreciate you.
Well,
I know.
he might have some
Hedging.
free time soon. He might have some free time
Yeah.
soon. All right, we're going to get into the players a little bit, but I've got one more question for both of you. Now, there's 4 games left before the December break, okay, and a January transfer window on the back end of that. Leeds traveled to Liverpool. Then they're home to Bournemouth, who have turned it around. Then they play Wolves in the League Cup, and then they're away to Tottenham. Do you give Jesse Marsch those 4 games and then make a decision in the December break about what you want to do moving forward? Or are you committed to him? Charlie, I'll come to you on this. Are you committed to Jesse throughout the season? Because it seems like he's got a great relationship with the board and the owner.
I don't think he gets the full season. Given the results are poor like this, he's not getting the full season. He already has a longer leash than Bob Bradley, so that's encouraging because they're saying, "Hey, we're still behind you, and you haven't won a game in a long time, and 4 off the back of 4 straight defeats. We're still behind you." However, they have Liverpool next on the road. I don't see them getting a result there. That would be a miracle if they were to win at Anfield, and certainly a boost to the squad, and I guess a vote of confidence in Jesse. But then that home game against Bournemouth, I think it would come down to that. If they lost to Bournemouth at home, given where they are, I think that could be the end of Jesse, because that's six straight losses.
Yeah, and I think that if they lose in the League Cup as well and get knocked out of that competition to Wolves, that could really signal it. If they lose to Bournemouth as well, it's interesting.
Think about it, because that's then following that, it's at Tottenham, home to Manchester City, and then away to Newcastle. You're taking L's up the wazoo. You need to win at home against Bournemouth, and if you don't, that for me, if I'm on the board at Leeds United, I'm going, we have to stay in the Premier League, and if we lose this game, I have zero confidence that this manager can turn around in time for us to stay in the Prem. And you have to give every opportunity for the squad to stay in the Premier League.
Let me ask you this, Jimmy. Do you think Jesse Marsch still has the locker room, right? Because Jesse Marsch, the intensity, the expectations, all these had, he didn't win over RB Leipzig, right? During his time there. And now he's here. He won them over in the fight to stay in the Premier League, right? That is that mentality, that expectation, great when you're the underdog fighting to stay, and it's an X amount of games to stay in the league, and you become like a hero or zero, right? Now you're going into a league and a situation where it started the season pretty strong, and then they've hit this dip since the first 2 games of the season. Do you think he still has the locker room? And 1 and 2, what do you think he knows what it takes to go from where they're at now to how they're going to actually start getting results? Because you're starting to see the theme again was that, I'd say this yesterday, Charlie, on the other podcast that Jimmy and I were on. But
it's called Extra Time.
I know. What's the name of it, Jimmy? What's the name of the new CBS
House of
podcast?
Champions.
House of Champions. I keep calling it House of Football. It's House of Champions. So, but the theme was, at least for me, was it's getting better and better. The stretches are getting better and better. But now to me, the theme is actually you can't solve the last part, which is the only part that's going to get you results. And that's closing out games in the late in the second half or mental errors individually. Do you think he knows what the issue is and how to fix that? Is it about changing his style, or is it about like addressing the issue that is sort of running through the players?
I think the hardest part about this whole thing is that they have shown, even recently against Arsenal, that they have something to their team under how Jesse plays. And it seems like maybe the players just elevate their game against the top teams in the league. I mean, because they played incredibly well against Chelsea, created their own luck. Brenden Aaronson scored that first goal when he stripped it from Mendy. And I think that gave them kind of that wind, to push them forward and to continue to get it. And Chelsea was a little vulnerable at that time under Tuchel. They seemed a little fragile. So that's what's disappointing, is that they have elements of their game, but they shut off at the wrong time. And what's disappointing, or I'll actually reference my time when I was there and I got to go to training, and they spent 20 minutes in the video meeting looking at what Barnsley did on set pieces. Okay. And where they could on attacking, right? What they could do to exploit how Barnsley defends, and then conversely what Barnsley does on attacking set pieces. They gave up a goal in that game in the League Cup to Barnsley on a set piece. If there's been any consistency that's been a negative for them, is just shutting off on set pieces. Arsenal used to do that all the time in big games for a while. They've gotten that out of their system. those are very controllable. They feel like preventable goals. So that's why when I see Jesse's body language and his facial reactions after losing to Fulham, he just seems like, I don't know what else I can do. That's the body language vibe I'm getting from him. I don't know what else I can do. I can't go out there and clear headers myself for these guys on set pieces. I can't go out there and mark. And not that he doesn't have answers, but what else can he work on? Now, there's plenty of tactics in their transition game, and they play very narrow. Doesn't always work, and he getting Sinister in the right spots. There's all these little things that you can nitpick. But it's good. Again, it's results oriented. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And I just wonder, because Aston Villa fired Steven Gerrard, who is obviously a very decorated player, and they went on to win 4-0 in their first game without Steven Gerrard, that the owners of Leeds could see that and be like, maybe it's time. Maybe Sean Dyche is available. He's done a lot with a little for many years in the Premier League, and maybe he's the guy that can take us forward. And maybe the players do need to hear a different voice. I don't know. It's unfortunate. I hope that he gets the opportunity to fight through it. He's had obviously 8 games, and they haven't figured it out, and I wonder how long that leash is going to be. But I just wanted to talk about that because I think there are some similarities to Greg Berhalter at times, who loves his system. And I think that's my big thing. You go in, and I'll actually bring this back. I had a conversation with Jay Heaps before he took over as coach at New England Revolution. And I said to him, okay, you have a system of how you want to play. Well, let's say 10 games in, your system isn't working, and you're seeing that when you have the most success, it's just hitting it long, trying to win the second ball and playing from there. But you haven't won a game in 10 games. I mean, you're probably going to resort to that, and everything that you stand for, everything that you wanted to be a coach about, everything you wanted to teach, you now have to throw out the window, because that's not what gets you success in this particular league against this particular opponent and whatever it is. And he's like, yeah, I guess at that point I'd have to throw all that away. And I found that to be fascinating. And so when you get to this level, and everything you work for, everything you get your coaching licenses for, your 4 pillars of the game, all the stuff that you want to do, you're now going to throw that out the window and sacrifice what you stand for to get rid. It's crazy. It's a really interesting thing that I think
Charlie,
it's hard to let go. This is the Jimmy
Charlie,
Conrad podcast.
How much? Yeah. By the way, Charlie, I hope you're well rested now to come off of Jimmy's rant there.
I have no oxygen. He's suffering.
Yeah, seriously, it took all the oxygen out of the show. My camera's foggy right now from Jimmy talking so much. Well, I got to say this, Charlie. Jimmy, it sounds like Jimmy's got a nice little consulting gig on the side, huh? Just motivating coaches and doing a little mentorship for some of the guys that looked up to Jimmy during his career.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to do if you're
life coach?
Fails?
Life coach. Yeah. That's my new nickname. Jimmy Life Coach Conrad.
I'm going to give you some positive reinforcement. Let me help you out.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the players, because some of our players did absolutely awesome this past week. I want to start with Weston McKennie, who scored his first goal of the Serie A season and his second across all competitions in Juve's big 4-0 win over Empoli. He also scored against PSG in the Champions League on match day 1. He has scored 6 of his 12 goals in for Juve with his head. Only one midfielder at Lazio, Sergei Milinkovic-Savic, has scored more goals using his head in the league since Weston McKennie joined Juventus. Big performance. My concern, Charlie, I'll come to you about Weston McKennie. We haven't really scored on a set piece in a while, or doesn't feel like we have. Maybe against Honduras at home in World Cup qualifying. Maybe I thought Walker maybe toe poked one in. Weston scored on a header, maybe from a McKennie Acosta free kick. Am I wrong on that? Was that the right opponent? I'm not even sure. But talk to me about Weston McKennie.
Honduras?
I don't know. It was the one. It was really cold. Was that the one where they scored? Anyway, it's been a while since we scored on a set piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I can't remember it. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, it's awesome that he's getting on the score sheet for Juve and trying to figure out ways to make an impact and scoring goals off a set piece. Great. We're going to need him in the World Cup. I know some people I've seen saying, I don't think Weston should be starting with this group. He's going to be starting. He's just a massive personality, a fantastic midfielder when it comes to aerial duels, set pieces, someone who's got a body who can tackle. He has that tenacity when you ask him to play in that manner. And I think with Juve, if he plays deeper, I mean, if even with the U.S. Men's national team, if he can play a little deeper and then in transition can go out the right side and be the kind of a right-sided midfielder in possession, because he does like to get up the flank, that's fine. But I would prefer if he'd stay central and be a little bit more defensive for us when we are defending and even when we have the ball, late runs into the attacking half, not getting too high too soon. be more of an option in build-up play. And if you have to drag people out and be more of a decoy in build-up play, great. Allow some more space in the attacking half for the attacking midfielder, whether that's Yunus Musa or whoever is playing 9. And I can't wait to get in this conversation about the 9.
No, I want to get into it as well, but of course some other players have scored a goal, and I'm going to bring one up very soon. But I did want to say with regard to Weston, for him to join the box late, that means we have to get the ball wide and have some time for our players out wide to actually pick up their head and pick people out. And that, at least in our last 2 games, was a bit of a struggle to do that consistently. At least Sergino Dest obviously had a good chance early on against Japan that Jesus Ferreira put over. But let's talk about Gio Reyna. We got to do it. Not only are we going to talk about him right now, he may or may not be joining us later this week on the show. I'm just throwing that out there. I can't confirm or deny whether this rumor is true, but I'm hearing from sources that Gio Reyna might be joining us this week on In Soccer We Trust.
Jimmy Conrad, who is your source?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like Fabrizio Romano or something. I don't know. So let's talk about Gio Reyna. He made his first start of the Bundesliga season a memorable one. He scored his first goal in 421 days. Last time he scored was in August 27, 2021.
Man, I hate when stats like that come out. They hurt a lot.
They hurt
because they realize a year goes by.
It's been a while. It's been a while. You know, last season he only played in 10 league games. So that is you could see how much it meant to him to score. Jude Bellingham scored 2 as well. Borussia Dortmund playing very well ahead of their game against Manchester City this midweek. But talk to me about Gio Reyna getting on the field and scoring a goal. That's good news for U.S. men's national team fans. Heath.
I agree. I agree, man. I think it's awesome. You realize just how impactful and important he is. It's been so easy over the last year, but to have Gio Reyna fall into the conversation of like, is he a starter? Is he not? Where does he fit into the national team? Because he was out. But when you see the impact that he has at Dortmund at that level, it goes back to our conversation and our arguments of like, we need to play with 13 players right now because Gio Reyna needs to be on the field for this national team. And they go, oh yeah, well, protect him from himself and injury and super sub and whatever. And you're like, no, this guy is good. But it all goes back to, again, I know Charlie wants to get to the 9s, but if we do not get the ball in and around the box, then our attack is useless, right? If we do not get the ball into dangerous areas, whether that's Yunus Musa driving the ball forward to connect the lines or whatever it is, we cannot get Gio Reyna, who's great at combination play, give and goes, 1-2s, getting in and around the box, one-on-one battles, getting it, just all the things, little things that you need. If he cannot be in an area where he's combining with his teammates, then Gio Reyna is useless. If Brenden Aaronson cannot get the ball at higher parts on the field or pick the ball away or start us by winning the ball higher on the field, then he is useless. If Christian Pulisic has to drop back into our own half to get the ball, then he is useless. And so we've got to figure out how to get, because we are playing to cater to our attacking, 5 or 6, right? Because we have Yunus Musa on the field. You have Weston McKennie on the field. You have we're playing with 1 striker. You have 2 wingers there. If we do not get those 5 players into the attack and in and around the box, then it is useless. And then we need to change our system, which I know we're not going to do. And we went over that last week. But a player like Gio Reyna, when he gets the ball in these spots, anywhere on the field, he's dangerous. But when he's getting the ball higher up the field, whether it's on the inside or out on the wings, he is so dangerous. But if we can't get him the ball there, then what's the point, right? And that's the thing that I come to when I watch him play for Dortmund. He gets the ball in such amazing spots because they dictate the game. They control the flow of the game. They implement their style on most teams. But if that's not what the national team is capable of, then I just wonder how effective can any of our attackers be? Because we obviously see the team right now not creating a lot of offense.
Yeah, there's definitely teams that are trying to congest that middle third of the field, which I think makes it very difficult. So maybe we should ask questions of Gio Reyna about these particular issues if we get the opportunity. It's a rumor. It's a rumor. So let's talk about the number 9, because one of our number 9s, Ricardo Pepi, is in fine form, and he played against probably the best opponent he's faced so far in the Eredivisie, PSV Eindhoven, who they were second going into this particular matchup, and he scored the first goal, and it was a good one, just following up the play, finding himself in good spots. But when I think about it, Chuck, is our resident number 9, I thought his hold-up play throughout this game was immense. I thought he did very well to drop into the pocket. He made good dynamic runs when the ball was wide, in particular, to either create space for himself or for some of his teammates. That led to Groningen's fourth goal. They ended up winning 4-2. So it's a big result. And I thought Ricardo Pepi was a key catalyst to why they got this result outside of the goal alone. Talk to me about him, because right now, the more I see him perform and the more confidence that I see him get, he looks like the guy that I think should be starting for us.
That was against PSV, by the way, and he was he made the team of the week in the Eredivisie, which is no easy task on scoring a goal. Like, his impact over his playing time was amazing.
Well, just watching Jesus Ferreira, who is supposedly the number one right now, he played like a midfielder in the playoffs. He didn't play like a striker. He was level with at times defensive midfielder Quignon, and Areola and the other winger were both higher than Jesus Ferreira. So for me, if I'm watching a player thrive in Holland, which is Ricardo Pepi right now, he's doing all of those things that we're going to need from our striker. Play off the defender's back shoulder. Also, checking deep, hold up play, being strong, knowing what that means to keep possession for your team. They're playing PSV, obviously a top two usually team in the Dutch league every year. Ruud van Nistelrooy coaches these guys well. And here you have a player playing against these guys and knowing how to survive, how to win, how to beat the better team. And the tactics are spot on for Ricardo Pepi in this match. Just being able to hold up, check, run into space, but defensively as well. The pressure. I know Greg Berhalter loves both sides of the ball, being able to dictate the pressure for everyone behind you. He did that, and he's able to win the ball back just with his pressure. The more and more I watch him play, and the more he's continuing to gain confidence and also develop from the playing time, the more I think he should be starting and should be the number one heading into that game against Wales. Whereas Jesus Ferreira, for me, over the past couple of weeks, month or so, I'm seeing him not continue to excel. There was a period where he was excelling. He's playing off the back shoulder, making runs. Now he's checking too deep.
Do you think he was trying to do too much? I feel like if you're dropping too deep and you play that high, because you're trying to control the game as opposed to letting the game come to you. Does that make sense? Maybe
it does make sense, but the whole point, I think, of the 9 for the national team is you have to create space for the midfielders. The midfield is the strongest part of the U.S. men's national team. It's the core for us. You need to give them space to run into. If they beat their one player and you're too high, now you're bringing a center back, if not two, because they don't have to be fearful of a pace. You're not threatening them, so they can come high. And if your outside wingers are tucked in, which Christian Pulisic has been doing, he's coming in to check to get on the ball. You have no deep threats. So that's why Timothy Weah, I think, is really important that he starts for us, because he gives us that threat. But I'd say more importantly, now Ricardo Pepi, being in form and fit and playing and scoring goals, has to play, because he will make runs in behind. And if you congest that middle and clog it, you're taking away all our playmaker space. So for me, I think at the moment, I'm really I'm leaning towards Ricardo Pepi. I mean, I watched Jesus Ferreira continue to grow, and I'm advocating for him because he's doing well. He's done nothing to lose the job, but at certain point, you have to take it up a notch. I was hoping that this playoff series, we'd see him rise to the occasion. Oh, we're playing Austin, Texas rivalry. I'm going to be here. I'm going to help my team get over the hump. And he just wasn't effective.
No, he wasn't effective. And that's disappointing for him. And he's probably seen some of his minutes evaporate, given how well some of the other number 9s are playing. And also, for everybody that might be joining us for the first time, we think that Jordan Pefok should be on the team, but we're talking about players that we think that Greg Berhalter will most likely start and or play, because we're big Jordan Pefok fans here. But and he's doing well for Union Berlin in the Bundesliga, but we still feel like he's a situational player. Well, if we're down a goal, we need to whip crosses, and he'd be
Gabe, I was faster.
Charlie Davies answering questions about who is faster between him or Timo Weah. That's fantastic.
Oh, crazy, because I was faster than both. That's wild.
But what's crazier is that Jonathan Bornstein was even faster than you, Heath. All right, so
faster to get on the
field.
you just took him out right there.
That's
seriously,
part of my charm, my 2-foot tackle. What I really loved about Ricardo Pepi, and then I'm going to throw it over to Ricardo Pepi's number 1 stand, Heath Pearce, was that he had some good hold-up play under pressure when he did drop deep, and he would play it off of his shoulder, which unlocked some of our Groningen's central midfielders to attack that space that was then by him coming in, which ultimately, when I saw those kind of link-up plays, is where Yunus Musa and Weston McKennie are going to pick up the ball. And when they can get the ball and run at a back line, and the wingers, I thought, for Groningen did an excellent job of staying higher, to your point, Charlie, of getting that verticality. You can't lose that. I thought in some of the games, most recently Japan and Saudi Arabia, those are the most recent, where we had our striker who was alone up there, and when they would drop in, there was still nobody in advance of that particular player, and that just makes everything a lot more congested and tight and harder to play through. So that needs to be up there. Our wingers have to be up high and pushing that line up as high as possible, so it creates those gaps in midfield. But I thought Ricardo Pepi, his hold-up play was immense, and if that can happen consistently for us, I like that because it brings more of our talented and attack more of our talented attacking players into the game. Heath.
Well, when I think about classic, our historical national team, right, always having a striker that you can get the ball to, big or small, and more often than not, they're going to win that duel to either draw a foul, keep the ball for you. And then when I think about top strikers around the world, right, Benzema, when I think about Lewandowski, they're known for scoring all their goals. But if you watch Benzema move on the field, if you watch Lewandowski, they are almost 100% every single game at hold-up play. You put it into them and they're scrapping, they're dueling, maybe they're off balance, but they're so good at getting that touch first, getting it down and laying it off. And that's something that this national team has always lacked. When Ricardo Pepi is on the field for this national team, though, he tends to be the best at hold-up play, of getting the ball, laying it off, little flicks, little things that break pressure in some way. And he's good at that, getting a toe on it in a 50-50, doing those little things that keep the team moving in the right direction, hold-up play, turnovers, because we need to be able to, at times, whether it's in the World Cup or otherwise, lump a ball up and know that we can scrap for it, get up underneath for second balls, or get a ball into the corner and know that they're going to make the right decision with it. We've struggled with that, and I think that's been a huge issue. We talk about, 4 touches in the first half or 5 touches in the first half, or they didn't do anything in the first half. Our strikers, because one, I don't think we've ever trusted that we have a target there that can relieve pressure for us in a way that we've seen in the past strikers for the national team. And two, finding a way to have that interactivity. If I'm a center back and I can lump a ball up to a center forward who can hold the ball up, lay it off, I know that it's like, okay, that's one option. Now maybe I don't want to use that option. I want to play through the lines in some other way. It's just other ways in which we can bring our strikers into the game, and those strikers can contribute to the way that we want to play. And Ricardo Pepi, I still think, is better at it than the other strikers that we have, given, PFOC, I do believe can do that. But yeah.
I'm curious for both of you. When you were playing and you had a striker who you knew was fast, and whatever the philosophy is, let's just say the coach says, I want you guys to play out of the back, no long balls, but everything's closed down, and you have this striker up top who can get in behind, and worst case scenario, I can play this into the channel and he will get it. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's sometimes the first option, but at least I know I got this striker that I can rely on. How beneficial was that? And did you ever have a player, that you were playing with every week that could do that for you?
That's a good question. I'm trying to harken back to, I played 50 years ago, as you guys remember. So
I know, so you played with a ton of people.
I played with a lot of people.
Yeah, seriously.
Like running the channels. I mean, when Eddie Johnson was feeling it and feeling good and open and ready to honestly, sometimes when he played, he's unplayable. Defenders couldn't do anything with him. And if he checked in and then he checked in to know that you're going to put it in the channel, he was always going to get to the ball first. And so if him and I were on the same page with that type of stuff, that's an easy way to solve some of the problems and kind of skip some of the frustration of trying to play through a congested midfield.
Ryan, that is why I said I prefaced it every week, not with the national team. I said every week. Hey. I want to know if there's a striker that they play with on club that you knew they could relieve pressure or stress that you were under press. You're like, I have no options. Who can I play to? I know I can play it into the channel and this striker will get there.
Jimmy, do you ever wonder what it's like to listen to this on audio when Charlie just goes rogue into the comments and just jumps into it? For people that are on the live show, just
I do.
People think Charlie's just talking to a magical person sometimes. And just doing like, Ryan, great question.
Ryan, I give love to the people in the chat.
I love it. I love
that too. I love that too.
It should be interactive. It's a two-way conversation, but
it should.
On that, I mean, there's been times, Charlie, that you're in a game, right? And the game is condensed and you know where the solution is, but nobody's looking for it, right? You know the solution's over the top. And occasionally you give the sign to your center back, you touch your eye of saying like this, you're pointing over the top, you're doing these things that are allowing me as a center back or me as a left fullback to know, hey, there's some space here. They're condensing the field. They're making it small on us. And you as a striker knowing, hey, there's an opportunity for me here if we can execute it, of giving that sign to say, hey, I'm going to check in, or if there's a little break when you're close on the corner kick of saying, hey, take a look over the top. I'm going to check in and spin out on the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Next time you see it, hit that ball. And those are the types of things that you have to be able to do that are kind of in real time, acknowledging where, and we know Charlie's going to always say kind of, look for me on every pass.
I do this one.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
I do this one.
But sometimes that's all it takes, is being able to connect. I remember, I'm pretty sure, Charlie, it was the goal that you and I had together where you finished it, where it was a long ball. But I think it was from Chad Marshall that hit me the ball over the top. But I was a left fullback, and we had talked like, hey man, if you can cheat up, I'm going to hit you that long ball. And I set that up. We had discussed that, and I was able to cheat forward. He hit that ball, got us in behind the back line. Granted, not the highest level we were playing against, but those little things that happen in real time where you can communicate and be like, hey, I see something here, can change the whole dynamic of how you attack, because it requires players on the field to see the game from different angles to sometimes know where that space or that danger can be, that can change or at least force another team to respect you.
Or, I would say for Jimmy, because I remember just saying, man, I feel that there's an advantage here. I'm seeing it. I don't know if anyone else sees it, but let me communicate on the next dead ball situation or throw in. And as soon as I get that opportunity, hey, this guy's cheating to me checking to the ball. Like, I'm going to come to you and then I'm going to spin, find me in the channel. And then the next time you get it, it works to perfection. You're like, see, we're on the same page.
And I think that's where our frustration lies with this particular team, or at least in the last two performances, where it's almost like we're adhering so much to the system that we're not allowing room to have these types of conversations. Not to say the guys aren't, but just that it's not necessarily, we're not seeing it at least. And that it's okay to get out of the system if an advantage presents itself, I think is where we need to go. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. And that's a great question, Charlie. I'm glad that it's not just some random unicorn that you're talking to that nobody else knows, some invisible person you're doing it. All right.
We make a good team.
We're going to take our first and only break of In Soccer We Trust. When we come back, we're going to do a 3 up and 3 down. We'll probably include Tim Reams, Sergino Dest, Tyler Adams, Cameron Carter-Vickers, just to throw some names out there, all of our goalkeepers. So do not go anywhere.
The UEFA Champions League on Paramount Plus. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath exhilaration. That's brilliant! With more magic and more drama. While a former Bavarian nails it back to the net in Barcelona, an American trades his stars with zebra stripes, and a Norwegian creates sky blue spectacles. Oh, so stream every sweat-soaked second of regulation time, stoppage time, and extra time. Beyond magnificent! This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live, exclusively on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back to In Soccer We Trust. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Charlie Davies and Heath Pearce. And I want to let everybody know that you can watch the UEFA Champions League, the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, Serie A, Coppa Italia, CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, NWSL, Scottish Premiership, the Brasileiro, Argentine Primera Division by subscribing to Paramount Plus. And if you use the offer code UEFA22, we have a QR code on the top here. If you're watching on the YouTubes, you can get a free 1-month trial courtesy of us, because we're the most awesome people, that is all the information. So go make that happen. The code once again is UEFA22, and go get your free 1-month trial of Paramount Plus, especially right now. We got match day 5 and match day 6 coming up, but let's do a little bit more recapping as we get into or eventually get into our 3 up and 3 down of our U.S. men's national team player pool. I want to talk about Sergino Dest, outside back resident Heath Pearce. He started and played 45 minutes for AC Milan against Monza, but apparently he came out injured. He's not traveling with the team for the Champions League, a big one that they must win against Dinamo Zagreb on match day 5 if they want to stay relevant in the knockout round conversation. He did train, but just away from the team, Heath. I'm a little bit nervous here about Sergino Dest because I thought he did some good things attacking-wise in his 45 minutes on the field.
Yeah, I mean, he's continued to, and what I like about his situation is he came in first starting, and they talked about he's third on the depth chart. He's all these things, but you go through a season and players get injured, you get your opportunities, and he continues to improve his standing within AC Milan, which is a great sign for him in the future. The downside is obviously coming off at half, training away from the team. That worries me The good thing is he is training, so I'm not too worried about all that. And hopefully it's just precautions, knowing that a team like AC Milan is playing 2 games a week. And they need that depth, knowing also that he's going towards the World Cup. And so I guess, yeah, the upside is what he did when he was on the field. The downside is, what happens next in terms of how long will he be out? What type of issue? Is it a reoccurring one? Is it a little nag like a lot of people have right now? And only time will tell that. As we are getting closer, by the way, when I'm looking at my 3 up, 3 down, there is going to be a couple people in my down that I'm just worried about heading towards the World Cup, not necessarily performance related, just because of the fact that they're not on the field right now.
Yeah, I think I have a name in mind that you're going to bring up, but let's flip it over to another injury concern and go back to this Leeds Fulham game. Obviously, a lot of Americans participated in this one, but one that did not, Tyler Adams, who is being held out due to a muscle injury. Any concerns there for you, Charlie? I think if any manager in the world that could be really looking out for the U.S. men's national team, it would be Jesse Marsch. But what are we saying about Tyler Adams? It seems like it's a minor thing, more precautionary, but I feel like his presence was missed against Fulham.
Yeah, for me, it's just a precautionary instance of just making sure that this player is fit to go. And Leeds can't afford to have him out either. And we saw how much he was missed this weekend against Fulham. They just need him in the lineup, and then he's central to our success for the U.S. men's national team. So I'm glad that this has been an incredible season from him from a playing standpoint. He's playing every match. It's been consistent. There haven't been any health concerns. So I think for the first time in his career, he's playing 90 minutes every single match, and the expectation so high. We see the demand of the Premier League. I think he's risen to the challenge. So for me, I'm not worried at all. And this is smart from not only Tyler Adams to say, okay, I see it, I need a little break, but also from Jesse Marsch, considering all the pressure he's under for his job.
Okay. No, I agree with you on that, and disappointed. I wanted to see him get a run out, but obviously I want him to be incredibly healthy and as close to 100% as possible for the U.S. Let's talk about Brenden Aaronson. And Charlie, I'm going to come back to you on this, and then Heath, I'm going to go to you for Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream talk. But Brenden Aaronson, not that he didn't have an impact in this game, he's obviously doing his thing, but it doesn't seem like he's on the tip of our tongues, at least when I hearken back to the last podcast of him being an automatic starter for us. It seems like he might just have to be that super sub. I don't think Gio Reyna is going to be 90-minute fit in a month's time, so I can see Brenden Aaronson coming on for him if he does start Gio Reyna for the last 30 minutes.
Where's Timothy Weah in that case?
I agree. It's Timothy Weah, for everybody, came on with 24 minutes left in Lille's 4-3 win over Monaco. It was 3-3 when he came on, and he helped. Well, he was on the field when they ended up getting the winner. So he's got some good vibes coming off the bench, but he doesn't look like at this particular moment like he's going to be 90 minutes fit either, Charlie. So I don't know. It's interesting because Aaronson obviously has his qualities, but we've talked about it before, having some contrast with some of our players. Gio gives a contrast from Christian. Timo gives us a little bit of a contrast from everybody else. Brenden kind of does what Christian does, So, yeah, what are your thoughts on Brenden Aaronson? We're really not talking about him as a starter anymore.
No, I don't think he'll be starting for the U.S. men's national team. There might be a game where he starts, and maybe it's Iran or England if someone picks up an injury. But as far as the depth chart, Christian Pulisic is the starter at the left wing spot, and that's not changing. I expect him to play every single match, and given there's no injuries. And one, he's hungry, he's determined. He might be lacking match fitness, but I don't think that'll be an issue for him. It's literally tactically where he is and how many touches he feels he needs to take. I think less is more in that case. So I think Christian is the lock starter, probably not going to be subbed unless he is fatigued. And then you have the 9, which is still up for debate. I think at the moment it's between Ricardo Pepi and Jesus Ferreira as the starter. And then on the right wing spot, I think it's Timothy Weah at the moment, just because he is different. But I could see Greg Berhalter saying, okay, we're starting Timothy for this game because we're going to play a certain way, versus, okay, now we're going to start Gio Reyna for this game. So in looking at that first game against Wales, if Wales sits a little bit more, and in those matches where it's a little bit tougher and they're going to be condensed, I think those are the matches where you want Gio Reyna because he's good in tight spaces. He can create off the dribble. Versus England. All right, we're gonna sit back a little bit more, be a little bit more pragmatic and defensive. We need a counter. Timothy Weah, you're starting at right wing because you're going to be able to be really effective on the counter for us. So I could see him mixing, matching. And then the third choice is Brenden Aaronson. Maybe that's the sub for Christian Pulisic if he's not playing at 100%. Maybe that's the sub for Yunus Musa, and you can move Gio Reyna there and plug in Brenden Aaronson. So I think he's on the depth chart, and he's under Gio Reyna if Timothy Weah is starting, and if Timothy Weah is starting, I think he's also behind Timothy Weah just because of how this team is set up. It's really difficult to find a spot for Brenden Aaronson, even though he's starting and playing in the Premier League every week.
Yeah, I think it's pretty effing cool that we have players that are starting in the Premier League that might not be automatic starters for us. That's really unheard of, and that just speaks to the talent of this particular generation that we have this much quality in our team. So, Heath, I'm going to come to you because we have a Premier League captain who might not even make the trip to Qatar, and Tim Ream, and Anthony Robinson starting to get his sea legs back, starting to get 90 minutes more regularly. That's a great sign because we were a little worried when Kurosawa came in that he might lose some minutes, but it looks like the left back spot under Marco Silva is his, which is nice. But let's talk about Tim Ream, Heath Pearce. I know you're waving at the camera, and it's great to see
I'm
you.
waving.
I'm just
checking. I'm trying to get you guys are literally both talking so much today that it's like just fogging up my screen. I'm just wondering if anybody can still see me at home here. So I'm just checking some of the lighting to make sure you guys still see me on this.
Nice blur effect you got going on.
Yeah, it's nice.
Exactly.
So,
it's kind of cool how it works.
Halloween. It's Halloween. All right, here we go.
So
Tim
playing
Ream
out of pressure. Excellent playing out of pressure.
Do you want me to go into my three up just for the sake of it?
Let's go.
Just
go up.
Just hop in there.
Let's just hop in.
Okay.
Let's go.
Hey,
Let's go.
hey, little buddy. Hey, just jump out.
down,
The water's warm. Hey, the water's warm.
Take this. Take it.
There you go, pal.
Here's the baton.
Okay.
Run.
Who's going first?
Here's my three up. Tim Ream. I think
number one.
To show
is this power rankings?
Those are power rankings. Yeah.
This is just three up, guys. Stop that! You don't put those words in my mouth, okay? Tim Ream is up because again he continues to show his quality. Now we can sit and break down on Greg, and this goes back to the Brenden Aaronson argument, which is like if our team's going to be a high pressing team, I want Brenden Aaronson on the field to start. I don't want Tim Ream on the field if he's got to play the high line all the time, but considering we're trying everything and every opponent's going to be different, why would you not want a Tim Ream around to bring some organization and some experience both on and off the field? So Tim Ream is one of my three up. Eric Palmer Brown, captain over the weekend in France. Another up for me because when I'm thinking about Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman not playing for 39 days until the start of the World Cup, I'm thinking about other who else can be trending upward during this window of time where our center backs are vulnerable. And then number three is Mark McKenzie continues to play. They win over Royal Antwerp. They're sitting on top of the table. They're winning consistently. My three up are all center backs. And that to me is a good sign. Now, whether or not Greg heeds the call of taking chances on these players, I at least think that's a sign that we've got players playing consistently. Eric Palmer Brown captaining a team in Liga, which is fantastic. Tim Ream has his team in the top half of the table and continuing to make big plays in games and just showing his comfort playing in the Premier League, right? System aside. And then Mark McKenzie also having just a really good bounce back season after a year lost in a team that's at the top of the table in Belgium right now. So those are my three up. If you guys want to go feed off
go
that.
Ahead, Charlie. Go ahead, Charlie. Go three up.
Give us your three up.
Three up. Gio Reyna, 1.
Nice.
66 minutes, start and a goal. You could see when he scored that goal just before half what it meant to him. The pressure of performing, the pressure of being healthy, the excitement of what's in front of him with the league and with the World Cup. Just you couldn't feel any more happiness for a player. So that was amazing to see. Ricardo Pepi scoring against PSV, continuing to make an impact with this loan move. Not too many people fall into a situation like this with a loan. Think about it. He was in purgatory. Big time signing, club record signing for Augsburg, not playing at all. Not even sometimes not even making the bench. here he is. He gets a loan to the top division in Holland to a team that's in the middle, and he's relied on to get results it's a high pressure situation for a club like Groningen. He's come into the situation and has just thrived. And not only is he playing, he's developing at the same time, building confidence, working on his hold up play, working on the transition, whether it's defending to all of a sudden being the guy relied on to winning the ball back for his club and turning it into points, into goals.
And by the way, Charlie, he
Phenomenal.
came into that situation in a situation that I wasn't sure was going to be great because they had just bought Florian Kruger, who is a German youth international from Arminia Bielefeld. And I was like, oh man, this is another one of those situations, a Chris Richards one where it's hard to say no, but now you've got somebody who they bought for $1 million into that spot. And $1 million's a lot for a Groningen to go out and spend. And he's winning out in that competition, which is making him a better player and giving him a better form. Just wanted to point that out too, as this, in terms of being in a situation that's not just in form because he's scoring goals, but also because he's having to win out in competition.
Yes. And competition is what drives a player to really reach his full potential. You can't rest. And you see that in his performances. He's hungry. He's not giving up. He's not thinking that he's won the job and I can take my foot off the gas. And then my third player is Tim Ream. I mean, which I think will kind of highlight some of my downs, but this is a player who is playing in the Premier League. He's the captain. It's not just playing in the Premier League. He's a big part of how they build out of the back. He gets a lot of touches, and whether they're sitting and defending and having to fight for a result, or they feel like, oh, we get back in this game where we can take a little bit more chances and play higher up the field. He's surviving, and he's playing in the best league in the world. I don't know how you overlook him now, considering how many center backs are out of the picture at this point. And he's been involved, so it's not out of nowhere. He knows, of course, Heath is out. His camera was shoddy anyways, but he knows exactly what Greg Berhalter wants, the expectations, and he has that experience being an older player. So those are my three.
It's hard for me to go against the 6 players or the combined 6 players that you guys went with. Tim Ream for sure would be on my list. I think he's probably playing the best he's ever played in his career, Charlie. I don't know if there's any other way in terms of consistency. Sure, we've maybe seen better peaks from him, but in terms of that consistently giving you a 7 or an 8 out of 10 every single time, and a center back position is where you need your spine of your team. You always have to have 7 or 8s out of 10 if you're going to have success more often than not with your squad. And so I think Tim Ream has been delivering that consistently at obviously a very, very high level, and you have to consider it. And if he gets brought in, I wonder what that looks like. Greg's like, hey, you want to come play? And Tim's like, oh, now you need me. That's what I would be about Tim. Oh, okay. Now you need me when I'm kicking ass over here. All right, sure. I'll come play in the World Cup. No big deal. So I'm curious to see how that conversation goes, even if he's even being considered. I hope that he is. Another player I think that has done a lot here is Sean Johnson. He has been absolutely excellent for NYCFC in the playoffs. He's made some world-class saves. Listen, if you're going to win anything of consequence, and we saw it with Sean Johnson last year when they ended up winning MLS Cup, you have to have a goalkeeper who's red hot, and he's red hot right now in these first 2 games. And with Ethan Horvath shipping 4 goals against Watford this past weekend, who's a battle for that number 3, I wonder if Sean Johnson can maybe squeak in there and eliminate Horvath for that.
I would also add Zach Steffen coming off a clean sheet, coming off of 2, like he looks like he's healthy now. I mean, the 4-1 win, the match before, the 0-0 draw, getting the clean sheet, that's also him heading in an upwards trajectory, which is awesome, because you want both him and Matt Turner fit as can be, healthy. And then, obviously I think in that case, Greg Berhalter is going to go with Zach Steffen because he's playing every week and he's fit and healthy. We just haven't seen Zach Steffen fit and healthy for a long time. So if
they have a new coach,
right? If he's finally good and here we go, fine. Then that it is what it is. Get behind Zach Steffen, support him. We all know what a great person he is. So those, and you could throw in Mark McKenzie. That was a great shout.
That's my third pick is Mark McKenzie. And I think Zach Steffen should be part of the conversation. I'm curious now with Michael Carrick coming in, how he is going to do and how he's going to utilize Zach Steffen in terms of using his feet and the system they want to play. So obviously something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think Mark McKenzie, for those that don't know, Genk is now on top of the table. They went away to Royal Antwerp this past week, who were also near the top. and they got a comprehensive 3-1 win. And I thought Mark McKenzie was a big reason why. I think he's been really solid and one of the reasons why Genk is now on top of the Belgian league. So I think he is another one of the ups. All right, let's get to the bads.
Jimmy, real quick, one thing that deserves an honorable mention is Kevin Paredes got his first start, played 73 minutes for Wolfsburg, which is a huge sort of step forward for him because he's got a ton of potential. But it's really hard to develop that if you're not getting the minutes.
He's an up for 2026. He's on that 2026 radar. He's an up for 2026.
Correct. And Richie Ledesma as well.
That's true. Good shout. All right, 3 down, Heath Pearce. And don't say Matt Turner on top.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a hard one for me, guys. You know where my 3 downs are. I'm gonna go with injured players because it's the main thing.
Come on.
Sergino Dest got it down because I don't know where he's at right now, and I think his form has been improving in the team and he's been earning more respect. But not knowing where he's at injury wise, I think is a little bit of a setback. Chris Richards is another one. When I was thinking about this, we're at October 24th.
Charlie now. Here we go.
We are at October 24th. He is not training. The roster gets announced on the 9th. That is a couple weeks away from now. And there is a big
bodes
window.
Well for Tim Ream, by the way. Yeah.
Bodes well for Tim Ream. And that's why I've got these guys training up because it's like we talked about timing and you can't really plan timing of things, injuries and all that stuff. We're seeing it every single week. Somebody goes out injured from a big national team around the country, and you see tears in their eyes because of the magnitude of and the sensitivity of this time period. So for me, that's one that just hurts because we know how important Chris Richards is for this national team right now, but is continuing to sort of be on the sideline on something that he can't control. And then the third one is Ethan Horvath. Again, thumping, leaving Sean Johnson in. We had made it pretty clear. I think we were kind of all in agreement, at least somewhat a month ago on him being the number 3. Sean Johnson has his team on a run in the playoffs and they look fantastic. And he's the one that kept them in the game to allow them to get the cushion that they did to go to the next round. And you're just seeing a playoff Sean Johnson, which when you think about confidence going into a tournament of a player that you need to step in, who's whether they're at the level or not, that thinks they can play in any game against anybody. That's a big thing. And for Ethan Horvath, not getting that or giving up that many goals or shipping that many goals, although he did make 4 saves, the same amount as Zach Steffen, certainly leaves that up for debate. So those are my 3 at the moment. Just looking at the time window of like, it's not really in form or out of form. If a player's playing right now, I like it. And if they're not playing, whether they're on the bench or injured, I don't like it because of just how close we are to the announcement of the roster.
Okay. Charlie Davies, you're 3 down.
Jesus Ferreira is just his performances in the playoffs against Minnesota and Austin. It's not so much that he didn't score a goal. It's more about his positioning and how he played. And then when Dallas started to play well against Austin is because they brought in Frank O'Hara, who is a true 9, and he dropped into more of a 10 role or a second 4, but more of a 10. And that's not what the national team needs. So for me, Jesus Ferreira not really playing as a true 9 in this playoffs and Dallas needing him to be that player, for me, that was kind of a shock to see that because he's asked to do something differently for the national team, and that's not his tendencies because you're playing to your strengths in the playoffs, you would think. And so I was a little down after watching Jesus Ferreira these 2 games, and then Chris Richards being out, and it's the match fitness part because you don't know when he'll be healthy and when he'll be back in full training and getting matches, and him supposedly being our number 1 center back at this time next to Walker Zimmerman, Aaron Long, and Chris Richards are not playing matches until the World Cup. So for me, that it's troubling. It's very troubling. And in particular, Chris Richards, because he's not even getting to train. So think about being out for X amount of time, not training, forget the playing portion.
Right. And
then I'm with Heath and Sergino Dest, just because you need him playing every week. He's going to be a big part of the national team. A right back who will be involved in the attack, but we need him to defend. We need him playing and growing and learning and coming off at half to an injury, that's a cause for concern.
And you can't say 3 down for Yedlin because he didn't play because he's out.
Well, that's well, I was going to throw that in as a blanket. Everybody that's been knocked out of the MLS Cup playoffs and is just sitting at home chilling. Not that the rest isn't important. They get a little bit of a emotional rest as well after a long season and a lot of pressure. So I know there's some value there. We all know that value. But at some point, you got to start to hit the switch and start to get back into the mode that you need to be able to compete and be sharp for the highest of high levels. So that would be kind of a one for me. Luca De La Torre is on my list. Dude has disappeared at Celta de Vigo, so I don't know what's going on with him. And obviously, I think he can help us.
They play today, so hopefully he plays, but he won't play.
He's not going to play. We already know he's like 11 minutes all season, so I'm just kind of disappointed.
What a disappointing move. Yeah, you take the risk.
Yeah, but Charlie thinks, look at the environment that he's in every day, Jimmy. He's training with good players.
No, Charlie's changed. Look at he's talking about Chris Richards on his 3 down for the first time.
I'm talking about playing. You need to play. You need to play.
Okay, and then I'm with you on Jesus Ferreira, Charlie. I think that's. I was also disappointed in this was his time to step up and put the team on his back when they needed it. And he didn't really step up and fulfill that. And I think that needs to be looked at and he needs to be held accountable for that. And any players that aren't playing well.
We're at an era, Jimmy. We're at an era that our national team striker needs to be a star.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You do not get to disappear in the playoffs. I get that you're young. I get that you have potential. But we are at a talent pool of players that they need to be a star in the biggest moments, not in the smallest moments. I agree with you.
Okay. All right.
It's not even being a star. It's like I'm not even saying he needs to score, but making an impact. Saying, oh, maybe it was one of those games where it wasn't going in, but he was a constant threat. He was constantly winning the ball back. He was constantly dribbling at players, creating those 1v1 opportunities and creating space for other teammates. It just, for 2 games in a row, he was a non-factor.
Yep, he was. And that's disappointing for a lot of different reasons. Okay, final thoughts. If you want to bring up the MLS Cup playoffs, we're down to our final 4. You can, Charlie. I'll come to you as our resident MLS Extra Time correspondent. What do you got for us?
I hope I get to see you guys in New York the next 2 days.
Well, we didn't get the invite, but appreciate you saying that.
I thought you'd be in New York regardless. No. Okay.
No.
Well,
no. Big goal, son, guys.
Well, my final thought is it was a great recap show going over the weekend, and 3 up, 3 down. Gotta love it. No Matt Turner this time for Heath. So
yeah, he survived. Heath Pearce, final thoughts.
Yes.
My final thoughts are, just a great weekend where I think people are getting excited about just some performances, because while we don't have our entire team in form, it's actually gone the other direction where it's like we had good form and then our big stars weren't playing. At least we have our stars playing now, and we've got to worry about how we're going to not ship a bunch of goals in the group stages. So overall, I think a solid weekend.
It was a solid weekend, and a shout out to all the teams in MLS that got to the Final Four. We got LAFC taking on Austin FC, and then we got Philadelphia Union, the top seed in the East, taking on NYCFC, who look absolutely fantastic right now. The reigning champs doing the business. Also, I don't want to confirm or deny any rumors, but we might have Gio Reyna on the show on Thursday, so make sure you set your calendars, hit like and subscribe, drop us a follow, whatever you have to do to make that happen. It will be a lot of fun, assuming it happens. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. All right, that is it. We're done here in Soccer We Trust. So thank you on behalf of producer Des, producer Alex, Charlie, Chuck Wagon, Davies, Hollywood Heath Pearce. I'm Jimmy Trash Can Cream Cheese, Conrad saying thank you for watching and listening as always. And we will see you next time. Later.